Joining me now, Governor Terry McGenius. That's my nickname for him because he figured this whole Medicaid expansion thing out. Governor Terry McAuliffe, good to have you with us, sir.
John, good to be with you. I'm driving down right now, rainy day. I'm headed down to Suffolk for a big infrastructure announcement, then off to Norfolk for a major tolling announcement, and then up to Winchester today for another economic development message. Good news, since you and I last talked, I announced Friday that our unemployment rate is now dropped to 3.9 from 5.4 when I took office, now 3.9, couple 100,000 new jobs, second lowest unemployment of any major state in the United States of America. Virginia is cranking.
Well, I tell you what, Governor McAuliffe, you're the jobs governor, and you've worked very hard and tried to get us our jobs here. And you know what? You put your money where your mouth is, and anybody can criticize whatever they want. But I say this all the time. Jobs are nonpartisan. And a paycheck isn't red, and it's not blue, it's green. And so if somebody's got a job today and they...
Personal wages are up, so the jobs we are creating are increased wages. So it's one thing to create jobs. These are good-paying jobs. So wages are up, unemployment is down, and our initial unemployment claims, John, just hit a 44-year low. Lowest since 1973, and I remind you, in 1973, our workforce was half the size it is today, and yet we're below that, which is truly extraordinary. We just got to keep it going.
Look, it is extraordinary progress you've made, Governor, on the jobs front. There's just no question, especially now when you look at the numbers, and wages are up. And you did this with sequestration, and you've got now a tough environment. As the state moves further away from being totally dependent on federal jobs and defense and things like that. Now, obviously, with the president's defense build-up, those jobs are going to come back to a certain extent, so things are going to look better. But you've done a miraculous job in getting Virginia away from totally dependent on federal government jobs and defense and things of that nature. And so I have to commend you for that. Look, you can't argue with the numbers. I'm like a math guy, right? Numbers are numbers.
They think of cybersecurity. I mean, this is something we lean into. We have now more cyber jobs than any state in America, about 658 cyber companies. They now think of us for the biosciences, which we were never thought of as before, data analytics, now more data centers. So it's a great diversification. And one thing I do worry about, a big caution, even though the president says more defense, let's assume it's another aircraft carrier or two. As you know, John, that is a 10-year horizon until we'll see anything from that. It looks like today, because of the total dysfunction in Washington, that we're going to continue to operate under a continuing resolution, which means sequestration level cuts will still be in effect this year.
Well, they're still going to be in effect, and you still continue to add jobs in the state, and as you say, good-paying jobs. I also want to commend your advocacy of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, which is getting closer to getting done. That's going to bring thousands of great-paying jobs to Virginia. Plus, it's going to bring energy to the areas that need it, especially the Hampton, the central and southeast Virginia area, which is going to spur manufacturing to come in because they can tap right into that pipeline, get right into energy, so you're getting jobs there. Let me just ask you something, though. The other day, you nixed the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority proposal to try to get job creation in Southwest Virginia. They were asking for $500,000 per annum over 36 months. You scrapped that. Why?
So first of all, that money stays down in the region, John. They were trying to take $500,000 and move it over into another box. That's not going to help economic development. I mean, we have now established Go Virginia in Virginia so that regions will work together. I'm not going to let people take that concept of regionalism away and to use it into one specific area when it has to go for the whole region. So people should not be allowed to move it. Not they're losing money, but I'm not going to allow a certain group to take money out of a pot for a very specific purpose. And I've been following this very closely, and there have been some things involved in this $500,000 transfer that, I'll be honest with you, what I have been told I feel very uncomfortable about, and I have to protect taxpayer money. And there are a lot of things that have been talked about where this money's going, and I just don't support it. So I'm watching taxpayer money. I'm working every day to clean up bad deals. In fact, I have a major announcement at 11:30 in Norfolk on the Midtown and the Elizabeth River Crossing project that have gone, probably the worst deal ever done in Virginia history. I mean, our taxpayers have been ripped off. They were ripped off totally. On 460. So A lot of this action that people like to do and scratching backs and all that, I'm not for any of that. Does a great job, does a diversify our economy, and I watch this very carefully, taxpayer dollars. I come from a business background. I've started 30 companies trying to bring a business approach to this government, and, the way things were done in the past is not how they're being done today, and that's why I ran for governor, and that's what I'm doing as governor. And this pipeline is going to be a game changer, and you hit it right on the head, John. It's not just a couple thousand jobs of the construction. This will now give Virginia some of the cheapest, most available gas, which will allow, just as you said, allow us to get in the game on manufacturing. I am working 2 deals worth close to about $4 billion worth of economic activity. The only reason I'm in discussions to get that to Virginia is because of the gas that I will get from this pipeline. So it will be a game changer, I believe, for the Hampton Roads regions and also for rural parts of the state that need manufacturing again.
All right, so look, there's no question this pipeline is big dollars. You just mentioned $4 billion. I mean, that's a lot of cabbage right there. That means a lot of good-paying jobs. These manufacturers come in. A lot of cabbage. But look, I just got to ask you this, Governor McAuliffe, straight out. So you've got 2 candidates on the Democratic side running for governor to be a replacement. One of them, Tom Perriello, has come out opposed to the pipeline. So of all the lieutenant governor candidates, your lieutenant governor, Ralph Northam, who I would think if I'm him, I want to run for governor on the Terry McAuliffe's job agenda, 3.9% unemployment. That's what I want to do. He hasn't even taken a position on the pipeline. Haven't you talked?
I think he supports it. I mean, he has told me he supports it. He just wants, rightfully so, to be done in the most environmentally correct way, which I agree with. But I agree with you. Ralph is running on my record. Ralph just got out of the field. He called me the other night, said I had a 61% approval rating in the state, which is pretty good. With Democrats, he said, you're at 98. I want to know who those 2% are. But, of course, the state's doing great. And he's got to have a continuation of those policies. People can differ on issues. I have come out very strongly for this. And, listen, I have taken some grief from parts of my party who do not like the pipeline. They're entitled to yell at me. I have no problems with that. I've weighed in on this. I'm going to do it in the best environmental way I could do it. We're going to protect the environment. But this is a jobs project. If we as America are going to get in the game and beat China and all these other, Vietnam and all these places who have stolen our manufacturing, the only way we can do this, John, is through cheap gas. You give me cheap gas, I will beat China, I'll beat Vietnam any day of the week because we got a better workforce here. We can deliver a better product. And this cheap gas really helps us. So, wherever you want to be on an issue, I have not shied away from it. I have done press conferences. I have had many protests who've come up to me. I said, listen, I beg to differ, but you're entitled to your opinion. This is democracy. They've protested at the governor's mansion. I actually enjoy protests. That's democracy in action. I love it. But I support it because of jobs. I focus on jobs 24/7, 365. And as you say, John, without jobs, none of this matters. You have no money for education. You have no money for roads. Jobs create tax revenue, which allow me to invest to create more jobs and have a better education. Why did I be able to put $1 billion in education last year, the highest level we've ever done, to redesign our high schools? Because we have an economy that's moving. We're up 5% today through 8 months. I hope we can keep it going. The last 3 months are really important to it. But our payroll withholding is up 5%. There's not many states that can say that. We just got to keep going, and I stay focused on jobs, and I'm just trying to do what I think is in the best interest of our citizens.
Well, jobs also keep families together. It's the number one thing in America that is the changing thing to get to a better life, is to be able to have a job and have your wages grow.
That's it.
And especially for working class people and craftsmen and tradesmen.
Right.
And that's what this whole thing is. So look, you're in the car,
John,
driving to Suffolk.
Taxpayers are not asking too much of their government. They're not. They have a right to make sure it's a good economic environment so they can have a great paying job. They can educate their kids. They can get on their roads. It doesn't take them an hour and a half to play a ball game, and they can get health care. They're not asking much of their elected officials, and that's what we need to focus on, those elements, and stay out of this other divisive issue. And that's why you and I talked about the Medicaid expansion. We have lost in Virginia $10.4 billion. There are no excuses left. It's over. And $6.6 million a day would come into Virginia to our health providers to make our citizens healthy. And now I hear that North Carolina is looking at doing it. So all of our neighboring states, West Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, whom I compete against for jobs, they're going to have a healthier workforce. They're going to have lower premiums because they're bringing billions of dollars back into the state. This is just nonsensical. It's immoral, and it's financially a bankrupt idea not to take Medicaid expansion money.
You know who else is signing up for it? Kansas.
And Utah has just announced they're looking to do
it.
Can I remind you that of the states that took it, John, a majority of them were Republican conservative governors. Michael Pence, the vice president in Indiana, John Kasich, they all swear by it. There were more Republican governors than Democratic governors who've already expanded.
All right, so look, I predict we're finally going to go with this. Once Mississippi goes this rate, then we're going to be the last state not to be involved in it. We're going to be number 50, and then everybody's going to say, oh, my God, I can't believe we're getting beat by Mississippi. And so then it's going to change. So, look, you're driving to Suffolk, and we just had this conversation. Why don't you pick up the phone and call your lieutenant governor and tell him, look, why don't you just run on my record? Stop worrying about what Blue Virginia says. They're not running your campaign. Run on my jobs record. You're going to be the nominee. I don't get this campaign, and you know I'm right, okay? They refuse to run on your record. If they do that, they're going to be the nominee. If they don't, Perriello is going to beat him. I'm telling you that. You need to call him as soon as I get off the phone.
All right, well, what I hear in every speech Ralph talks about, he talks about our economic record. I mean, that's what all of his speeches are about. Something tells me that his commercials will be all about that. He is running on that agenda, on jobs, on economic development, and every speech I've heard, he goes on and on about it. I mean, just step back from politics. Look where we are today, John. I mean, as I just went to, we have done about $15.6 billion in 3 years of new capital, 902 economic development projects. We have brought in nearly $5 billion more than any governor's administration in Virginia history at the same time. Things are great. Put the politics aside. I operate as a fiscally conservative, pro-business Democrat, socially progressive. Take the walls down. And what you saw happen yesterday in North Carolina, why did they all repeal their HB 2 bill? Because those socially divisive issues were crippling North Carolina. A study came out last week. They lost $3.63 billion going forward was going to cost them. And the ACC and the NCAA, just as I've been saying, stop this insanity. Stop your Looney Tunes bills. Focus on jobs and economic development. That's what voters elected you to do, and do the right thing, and quit worrying about, they're not voting for Medicaid expansion because they're terrified of the Tea Party. Plain and simple.
All right, well, let's get back to the money game that you just talked about. Running for governor, Republican side, Frank Wagner, chairman of the Commerce Committee, win or lose, he's still going to be there. He's advocating that we do a minimum floor on the gasoline tax, saying that if you want to build roads, you got two options or three. You don't build them, you increase the gasoline tax, do the floor, or you get tolls. We've already seen how we got screwed on the Elizabeth River crossing deal. Is Wagner right or wrong?
Listen, I don't want to get in the Republican primaries. Right now, we have a sustainable, because of the courage of the legislators who stepped up in 2013 to do that, and working with then Governor Bob McDonnell, they finally broke an impasse on it. So right now we have billions of dollars out at work. I mean, we're transforming transportation today, but right now is not a time, I'd say, to go back and do a tax. We're doing what we need to do with the funds that we have, and right now it's not talking about more taxes on people. I very worry about this economy. I still, as well as we're doing, the president has called for a federal hiring freeze, another continuing resolution, John. That could really give us a gut punch here in our economy here in Virginia. So, you know, let's keep money in people's hands right now. Let us bring more efficiencies to government, which is what I'm trying to do. And today I will have another major announcement at 11:30 in Norfolk about a horrible deal that was signed in 2012 before I got here. It's going to put more money in people's pockets. That's what they elected us to do.
Okay, so that's got to be the Elizabeth River crossing toll deal, which is the worst deal ever made in the history of man, where everybody gets screwed on this thing every day in perpetuity, where that company is guaranteed millions and millions of dollars of profit, and it's punishing working people trying to get to work. Do you know that there are people that can't get to their jobs, that have lost their jobs, lower paying jobs, because they can't go through the tunnel to get to work? I mean,
Right.
this is horrific. What are you going to do?
Well, I went down there Friday.
Get this
I
thing
did a press
redone?
conference in Portsmouth. Listen, I am a happy-go-lucky Irishman. It is hard to get me mad. Well, let me tell you, I was mad. I had talked to 3 women, and exactly you're talking about, John, who had fees and fines for those tolls. One had $19,000, one had $18,000. So I went down there. I called out the companies by name. I don't say Elizabeth River Crossing. I say Skanska, McCrory. These are the folks. And I was very deliberate and said I'm not going to. And listen, I have very few legal options, John, because I don't blame these companies. They out-lawyered us in 2012. They abused us through the legal process. But we agreed to it. We signed a contract. So I got to file contracts. I have very limited options. The only thing I have is the bully pulpit. And I went down there with that bully pulpit. And let me tell you something, John. Within 1 hour, the leadership of Macquarie, a multi-billion-dollar company out of Australia, they called my office within an hour and said, we are going to be in your office next Wednesday to fix this. We had the meeting Wednesday, and I'm going to announce the results today at 10:30. That's what leadership's about, leaning in to protect your citizens. I am not going to let any out-of-state company come in and abuse our citizens, and I'll never let them come in and abuse people who can least afford to be abused. I'm not going to tolerate it. As I say, I'm an Irishman, and this has really got me angry, and today we're going to have a great resolution.
All right, so you're going to announce something today that is going to be real. It's just not going to be, like you say, bully
real
pulp. It sounds
money
like you got a deal on the table.
John, that to me is what real's all about.
All right, well, that toll thing is so egregious, and it's such a regressive tax because it's punishing working people that don't make a lot of money that are trying to feed their families. I hate that thing, and I hope you're going to do something about it.
These tolls were put in place years before any new capacity was going to be put in place. So you're paying a toll.
Total
you're not
abuse.
getting any relief by more capacity to get your cars on the road. And second in the deal, they signed an agreement that said if any bridge or tunnel in the area puts tolling on their roads, they have the right to come back to us to make up that difference. Are you kidding me?
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Why don't you just let them write the contract and give our taxpayer money away? So, I fought this thing from, I remember as soon as I came in office, I paid down the tolls on the Martin Luther King. I reduced them on the Midtown Tunnel. This is another step, and I think we now have done about everything we can do. But, this is my point. This is taxpayer dollars. These are hard-earned dollars, and your government should not willy-nilly be giving away your money without some product to show for it.
What do you think about one of the other candidates running for governor, Ed Gillespie, the other day announced a 10% across-the-board Virginia state personal income tax reduction, put money back in people's pockets, said a family of 4 save about $1,300, and he's got math to pay for it. Good plan? What do you think?
A lot of people have shot holes in it already. I mean, as you know, we are a very low-tax state today, John. And listen, when I ran for governor, there were certain taxes I always had a problem with: the B-poll tax, the licensing tax, machinery and tool tax. I mean, focus on a couple of those things, but we're already a very low-tax state, and we cannot cripple our investments in education and things that we need to do going forward. And all I can tell you is look at the metrics. In the last 3 years, we have knocked the cover off the ball in economic development. And I've got about $5 billion more deals I want to get done before I'm finished with this job in 10 months. I mean, I'm off to Mexico in a couple of weeks. I'm going to announce some major trade things there. I'm going over the air show to announce some things. I mean, we're cranking. I've done 23 trade missions around the globe. Why, John? 95% of the world's customers live outside America. This is a global economy. So just coming in and saying, I'm going to cut personal income tax. Listen, you need a comprehensive plan. And I know that Ed and the others are going to have a very tough time because how do you talk about the economy? I mean, we have lapped people on economic development, on job creation, on number of new jobs created. So what's your argument going to be? I mean, I don't know what their argument's going to be. I mean, we're literally knocked the cover off the ball. Are you going to say you're going to create more jobs? And that's fine. Well, give me a plan how you're going to do it.
Well, look, the bottom line is you're down to 3.9% unemployment. You've got the lowest number of people going on the unemployment claims
in 44
rolls.
years.
Wages are going up. So, look, I mean, you just can't argue with the math. All right, final question. I know you have to take off.
We got a good balanced budget. We got a good budget. It's got a good reserve in it and all that. And And let me say, a lot of people made a fuss about I have the most vetoes, but, I told people I'd veto, and I do what I say I'm going to do. But I have signed 3,000 bills, and we've had a very good working relationship in a bipartisan way on economic development, on education, on transportation. So, we here in Virginia, we work across the aisle, we compromise, which is not a bad word, we get things done. I mean, we differ on social issues, but on some of the big, broad economic development things, I've had a great working relationship. I've had a great working relationship with the folks, and Chris Jones, chairman of the House Appropriations. We've had a great working relationship. We come to the table. How do we make Virginia better? And we both compromise, and that's what's not happening in Washington, John, and that's what's got to happen because we are competing on a global basis.
So you reject the title that some tagged you on the Republican side of Governor McVeto. 111 vetoes. That's a lot of vetoes, isn't it?
But, John, as you know, I said in the State of the Commonwealth, don't send me these socially divisive bills. They send me bills that would really hurt Virginia's reputation. I know economic development. I live, eat, and breathe it. I'm traveling the globe. I was in California 4 times in the last month. I'm trying to recruit some major tech companies with billions of dollars of investments to come back to Virginia. When you go see the heads of Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon and Microsoft, these companies, let me be clear, John, zero tolerance, zero, for any discriminatory bills. Zero. So by even introducing the bills, they cause me problems when I travel around the country. So all I would say to these legislators, maybe they do it to keep their base happy. I'm not quite sure. But they are having a damaging effect. Come with me on an economic development and listen to the people who I'm recruiting to come here. And you wouldn't put these bills up. But I said, listen, if you discriminate against anybody, women, LGBT, anybody, or you try and put more needless guns on the street, you try and harm the environment, I'm going to veto it. And we are strong today. I go back to my point. I will stand my metrics on economic development against anybody. You want to come to the table on economic development, I'll have that discussion with you. But I am going to veto anything that hurts Virginia's global reputation.
Okay, we're going to take off, but I got a bunch of my listeners from Winchester. You said you're going to Winchester. I got 5 texts here. They want to know when you're going to be in Winchester today and where. And then we'll...
Yeah, we got a great event today up in Winchester, and let me tell you right now the exact time. We are going up the American Woodwork Corporation groundbreaking, which is going to be on Shady Elm Road up in Winchester for a great announcement today. The event starts at 2 o'clock, and it's another great groundbreaking that we're having today. It's going to be the future site of the American Woodwork Corporation corporate office. So, another great company that we got. I just had a celebration dinner the other night, John, up in Northern Virginia with the Nestle company. It was a great dinner. Right. The largest consumer product company in the globe, $240 billion a year in sales. Their American headquarters, guess what? They just left L.A., Los Angeles, and they're moving to Virginia. This is a huge win for us, and, and it's going to continue. And with that, I think we're going to bring more assets into it. I met with the CEO of Nestle. This is just the first start of what is going to be a global opportunity for our beautiful Commonwealth.